So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use Location Manager and Location Listener. Now this is from a different API. So we've used the Fuse Location Provider and the Google Client API and everything. That's wonderful, and I wanted to show you that. But now I'm going to show you an alternative way, which is what we're going to be using when we create our earthquake application. All right, so this is just a different way of doing the same thing we did before with Fuse Location Provider. But in this case, we're going to be using straight Location Manager and Location Listener. Okay, you will see that there aren't a lot of differences here in terms of the classes that we're going to be using, but most importantly, the methods that we're going to be overriding from these two different APIs. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. In this video, we're going to talk about location. But first thing, before we do anything, let's go back to our Android manifest here. There's a few things we need to add. First one is the user's permission to find location. Okay, and just to be sure, let's go add the course location as well, which the course location allows the application to use GPS, to use the Wi-Fi and other connectivities to triangulate and find the location. Okay, this is fine. Perfect. So now we have that out of the way, what we need to do is go back and work inside of our main activity, app compact here, our main activity. And we won't be using the XML. All we're going to be doing here is to log in our system here. Create a location manager field here. We're going to say private location manager. Make sure it's Android location manager. We're going to name this location manager. And we're going to say location listener. Location listener. There we go. We're going to call this location listener. Now inside of our on create, we're going to say location manager is equal to this that gets service, and we're going to pass the service we are requesting. In this case, it's going to be location service. Okay, now we're going to have a problem here. If you click and highlight, that means we probably have to cast. There we go, because it's a location manager that we need to receive. And we're going to say next, we're going to say location listener. I'm going to say is equal to new location listener. Okay, and we have all these override methods that we can use. So the on location change, as you can see, we have the location object. This is where we're going to write a code to respond when the location the user has changed location. On status changed, this is where we can write logic for when the status has changed, and we have on provider enable and on provider disable, all of that stuff. So we are more interested at this point the on location changed. For now, we are just going to say log.d. Let's say this location. And what we're going to log, we're going to log the location .toString to override on request permission. The reason why, let's go ahead and run this application. As you can see, nothing is happening. Okay, there's no location being shown here. The reason is because we need to override the on request permissions result. All right, so now we're going to use our location manager here to set things up, to request the location update. So what we can do now is still inside of our on create. What we need to do, we're going to say location manager dot request location updates. Okay, so what we need to pass here is the provider, which means what kind of requests are we asking. We're going to pass, say, location manager GPS provider. The next thing we need to pass is minimum time required to start doing all these updates. In this case, we're just going to put 0 and distance is just 0. What are we saying here? We just want to constantly look for the updates. And the next thing we need to pass is our listener, our location listener here to be precise. So we're going to say location listener and pass like that. Okay, so now we have an issue here. So if you click anywhere here and we say, it looks like it says call requires permission which may be rejected by user. Code should explicitly check to see if permission is available with check permission, or explicitly handle potential security exception. Now again, this is very important because Google is making sure that users are actually giving permission to use the location. So we're going to click here and say add permission check, and there we go. So here we are checking for permission. In this case, we're saying if it's not granted and the access course location is also not granted, then we have this part of code here which just will return. Okay, and then we have our location running that. The next thing we need to do is to override the on request permission results. So I'm going to go down here and say on request, there we go, permission result. That's an overridden method that comes with our location request. So we can use this on request permission result to check whether the results were granted. Okay, so what we can do now, as you can see, this on request permission result has the string array with permissions, has the grant results also with permissions. So we're gonna check to make sure that we are good to go. So we're gonna say if grant results that length is greater than 0, right? Because it's an array, and grant results. So we're going to check for the first item in our array is equal to package manager that permission granted. Okay, if that's the case, then we're going to say then if context compact, this is going to be essentially the same if statement as the one that we added, dot check self permission. Okay, I'm going to pass this. I'm going to say manifest that permission find location is equal to package manager dot permission granted. If that's the case, then what we're going to do, we are going to call this location manager inside here. Okay, which will go ahead and listen, and we pass our location listener. Now we need to actually request permissions. Where are we going to be requesting the permission? Well, we're going to be requesting the permission here, right? Because we're checking for permission, and in this case is negative, meaning that the user hasn't given permission. So what we can say here, we can say activity compact for compatibility that request permission. We're going to pass this, and the next parameter we need to pass is a string of permissions, right? An array of strings. So I'm going to say new string. I'm going to create here right now will be manifest dot permission dot access find location, and we're going to go ahead and pass 1. The reason why we're passing 1 because we know there's only one permission we want to ask for, which means let's go back here and delete this course 1 here. That way we are truly asking for only 1. Although I think if you had left that way, it should still work. But in this case, we're just passing, this is just 1 permission we are hoping to get. Okay, perfect. So now once we have that done, we can put another else here, and we will work on this else in a second. So let's save this. Now we go ahead and run. There we go. Now it says allow interlocks to access this device location. Now we're going to say allow. So the moment we allow, we are now able to, should be now able to start changing our location, and this code here, location and getting location that to string, we should be able to see in our console. How are we going to simulate this change of location here? Well, the way we do that is by clicking on our emulator and click on these 3 dots here, open that, then these extended controls will open, and then here, this is where we are going to change latitude or longitude, or both of them. Okay, let's give it 100 now and say, move this here and say send, and we should be able to see in our monitor here, it says we've indeed changed locations. Okay, let's add another one here, 10, just like that, and we can see our location is changing. Okay, this is the latest one that we've added. Perfect. Now here's the thing. If we stop this and run again and try to change, nothing is happening. The reason why is because that's only happening one time. We request permission, and once that happens, the location manager here, location listener, is called right away, and we're able to do that. But next time, the location listener is called, and we can see the location as we change them. But then after that, there's nothing else to do. So what we need to do here, instead of after our request was granted, okay, we are just going to go ahead and call location manager again. In fact, let me go and get the code, this piece of code here. Okay, let's do that. And we're going to just put an else here and give it that way and save and give it a run. And now if we go ahead and change this to 10 and send, and look at that. Now we have it. Okay, we can change this to 8, send, and we are changing our location. We're simulating the change of our location, and everything is working perfectly here. All of that was because, right, after we've changed, added the location request, location update again to be called once the permission was granted. Okay. Now, just to be safe for compatibility, we're going to put another if statement here. We're going to say if build, right, android.os dot version dot SDK int is less than 23 marshmallow, right, less than marshmallow, else I'm going to do like that and close there. Okay, so if build is less than the marshmallow, which is 23, then all we need to do is just call this request here. Because for APIs less than 23, all we have to do is just go ahead and request our location updates, and that should be good. Otherwise, if our build, the application is running on a device running SDK greater than 23, then we have to go through this process here, which is we have to check for permissions and give them permissions and continue if the permission is given, and continue to request location updates. Okay, good. But just remember here, we did a very few things. We created our location manager, we created our location listener, okay, and then we instantiated our location manager inside of our own create, which we are just asking for a service, right? Because location manager is a service, and we say the type of location service is location service. And then for our location listener, we instantiated it, and then we have all of these methods that are overridden that come with our location listener. So we were very interested in the location on location change because we want to make sure that we are able to get those changes and those changes in location, and we are displaying them here. Of course, we could have done more inside of other overridden methods there, but we stopped there. That's not a problem. Okay. And then here we had to check for permissions, check if the user has already said yes, this application can access the my location, right? And then once we checked, we're checking if access find location, whether it's granted or not. We're saying checking if it's not granted. If it's not granted, then we need to request permission. So we're going to say activity comp that requests permission, and we pass the permission string. And of course, we pass 1 here because we're just asking for 1 permission. Okay. And then we had to add this else here to make sure that once they've said yes, next time we open the app, this will still work, meaning we're going to go ahead and request location updates, which we pass our location listener, okay, and of course our location type or provider in this case, which is just GPS provider, okay. And of course we have overridden also the on request permission results. So when that request happens and they said yes, we want to go ahead and run this code here. Of course, inside we are checking to make sure that indeed whatever we are receiving from our request permission result is granted for sure, okay? And we check all of that, and then we just call the location manager and request location updates again. Okay, this happens once, the first time on request permission result. That's the reason why we had to put this else if statement here. That way we can continue requesting for updates, our location updates. All right. Okay. All right. Enough about this app now, and I'll see you in the next video.